My name's Chloe Harper, 42 years old, and until about 10 minutes ago, I was the senior sales director at Nexus Solutions, a tech firm here in Seattle. 9 years I'd been with them, clawing my way up from a junior rep answering cold calls to someone who could walk into any boardroom and close a deal. I wasn't just good at my job, I was the best. Last quarter, my team smashed every record in the company's history, and I personally brought in 55% of the revenue. So when Victoria Langston, my new manager of 6 weeks, called me into her office, I figured it was for a pat on the back, maybe a bonus. Boy, was I wrong. Victoria sat behind her desk, all sharp edges and sharper smiles, her designer blazer screaming, "I'm better than you." She didn't even look up from her laptop when I walked in. "Chloe, take a seat," she said, her voice clipped, like she was already halfway through the conversation in her head. I sat, my stomach doing a little flip. Something was off. The air felt heavy, like the moment before a storm hits. "We're making some changes," she said finally, closing her laptop with a soft click. "The sales team needs a new direction. Younger, more dynamic. We're letting you go." Her eyes met mine, cold and unblinking, like she was daring me to react. "Thanks for your time here, but we're moving forward with a different vision." I blinked. My brain scrambled to process the words. Fired? After the quarter we just had? I wanted to laugh, to scream, to point out that I'd just delivered the best numbers this company had ever seen. I could have listed the clients I'd brought in: Lucas, Hannah, Mason, people who sign with us because they trusted me. But I didn't. My mouth stayed shut, and I just nodded, like some part of me had already clocked out. "Okay," I said, my voice steady. "Good luck with that." Victoria's smile faltered, just for a second. I think she wanted a fight, an outburst she could use to paint me as unprofessional. But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. I stood, smoothing my skirt, and walked out. Her door clicked shut behind me, and I swear I heard her sigh, like she was disappointed I hadn't begged. Back at my desk, the office was a ghost town of averted eyes. My team, people I'd mentored, trained, celebrated with, suddenly found their monitors fascinating. Nobody said a word. I didn't expect them to. Loyalty's a rare thing when paychecks are on the line. I started packing, my hands moving on autopilot. A photo of my niece grinning at the aquarium. My favorite coffee mug, a gift from a client with "World's Best Closer" scrawled on it. A small jade plant I'd somehow kept alive for years. That was it, 9 years, reduced to a cardboard box. As I zipped up my bag, I overheard Victoria on a call in her office, her door slightly ajar. "Yeah, just cleared some dead weight," she said, her voice dripping with smug satisfaction. "The team's leaner now, ready for the new strategy." Dead weight. That's what she called me. The word stung, sharp and hot, like a slap I hadn't seen coming. I gripped my box a little tighter, my knuckles whitening, and headed for the elevator. In HR, Sarah, a junior rep who'd always been sweet, handled my exit paperwork. She looked like she wanted to crawl under her desk. "This is such a mistake," she whispered, sliding my badge across the table. "Everyone knows what you did for this place." Her eyes flicked to the door, like she was scared Victoria might burst in. I gave her a small smile. "Appreciate that, Sarah." "It's fine." It wasn't fine, but what else could I say? The elevator ride down felt like it took forever. I stared at my reflection in the polished doors, wondering how I'd missed the signs. Victoria's buzzwords, her obsession with modernizing the team, her side eye at my client dinners. It was all there, and I'd been too busy closing deals to notice. But as the doors opened and I stepped into the rainy Seattle afternoon, something shifted. Not anger, not yet. Something colder, clearer. Victoria had just made the biggest mistake of her career, and she didn't even know it. I slung my bag over my shoulder and walked to my car, the first drops of rain hitting my face. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Lucas, my biggest client. "Hey, you free for coffee tomorrow?" I smiled, just a little. Yeah, this wasn't over. Sitting in my apartment that night, the Puget Sound glittering under a crescent moon, I couldn't shake Victoria's words. Dead weight. They looped in my head, each syllable a jab at the 9 years I'd poured into Nexus Solutions. I poured a glass of red wine and sank into my couch, the city lights blurring as my mind drifted back to how it all started. I wasn't just some cog in their machine. I'd built the damn machine. 9 years ago, Nexus was a scrappy startup tucked in a dingy Belltown loft, all exposed brick and dreams bigger than our budget. I was 33, fresh off a dead-end job at a call center, desperate for something real. Nexus hired me as their 8th employee, a junior sales rep with zero tech experience but a knack for talking to people. My job was simple. Find clients, make them stay, make them love us. I didn't have a playbook or a fancy CRM system. Just a phone, a Rolodex, and a gut instinct for what made people tick. That's where Lucas came in. We'd been friends since college, back when we'd stay up late debating bad movies over cheap beer. When he launched his fintech startup, he was drowning in code and ambition but had no clue how to sell. I pitched Nexus's payment platform to him over burgers at a dive bar, not with buzzwords but with a promise. We'll make your life easier, and I'll always have your back. He signed the next day. That deal wasn't just a win. It was the spark that lit everything else. Then there was Hannah, my old mentor from my call center days. She'd moved up to a big logistics firm and remembered how I'd stayed late to help her close deals. When I reached out, she didn't need a pitch. She just said, "Chloe, if you're in, I'm in." Her company became our second biggest account. Mason came later, a referral from Lucas. His healthcare tech firm needed our software to scale, and I spent weeks learning his business inside out to make it happen. He called me the closer who cares, half joking, but it stuck. Those three, Lucas, Hannah, Mason, weren't just clients. They were my people, tied to me by years of trust, late-night problem-solving, and knowing their kids' names. I didn't build those relationships with golf trips or branded swag. I remembered birthdays. I called to check in, not to upsell. When Mason's daughter had surgery, I sent a care package. When Hannah's firm hit a rough patch, I worked with our devs to tweak our software for free. That's what made my team's numbers untouchable. 55% of last quarter's revenue came from my book of business, and most of it was from people I'd known before Nexus even had a logo. Trouble started 3 months ago. Our CEO, Nora, introduced Victoria Langston at a quarterly meeting, calling her a game changer from some flashy San Francisco firm. Victoria strode in, all perfect hair and corporate jargon, promising to disrupt our sales culture. I rolled my eyes. I'd heard that talk before, usually from people who'd never closed a deal themselves. Her new strategy was all cold call quotas, scripted pitches, and performance analytics. Relationships? Not a word about them. After the meeting, Lucas texted me, "Your new boss seems like she's auditioning for a TED Talk." I laughed it off, but my gut churned. It got worse at a client dinner with Lucas. Victoria insisted on joining, then steamrolled the conversation with buzzwords like synergy and scalable solutions. Lucas, who hates that stuff, went quiet, his fork stabbing his steak a little too hard. In the parking lot, he pulled me aside. "Chloe, that woman's gonna be trouble. Watch your back." I shrugged, said she was just finding her footing. But deep down, I knew he was right. My phone buzzed, snapping me back to the present. A text from Riley, a junior rep I'd mentored at Nexus. Victoria is reassigning your clients to new reps. It's a mess. I'm so sorry. I stared at the screen, my wine glass cold against my palm. Victoria wasn't just firing me. She was trying to erase me. I set the glass down, my jaw tight. She thought she could replace me with a spreadsheet and some rookies. Big mistake. I wasn't sure what came next, but as the sound shimmered outside, a spark of defiance lit up inside me. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. I barely slept that night, my mind churning like the Puget Sound on a stormy day. Victoria's smug deadweight comment kept replaying, each word a splinter under my skin. By morning, I was exhausted but wired, sipping black coffee in my kitchen when my phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. Who's this new rep emailing me? Some kid named Jared. "I only work with you, Chloe." "What's going on?" My heart skipped. I hadn't even had time to process my firing, and Victoria was already carving up my client list. Before I could respond, my phone lit up again. A call from Hannah. "Chloe, what the hell?" she said, not bothering with a hello. "I just got a generic email from some Nexus newbie saying they're my new point of contact. No mention of you." Are you okay? Her voice was sharp, protective, like she was ready to march into Nexus and demand answers. I sighed, leaning against the counter. They let me go yesterday, Hannah. New manager, new vision, apparently. Silence on the line, then a low. You're kidding. After the quarter you just pulled. I could hear her pacing, her heels clicking on her office floor. This is insane. I'm not working with some rando they dug up. I was still reeling when an email from Mason popped up. Chloe. Got a weird message from Nexus introducing a new account manager. You good? Call me. My chest tightened. 3 of my biggest clients, all reaching out within hours, not because Nexus had explained anything, but because they sensed something was wrong. Victoria's team hadn't even bothered to personalize the emails, just cold, boilerplate nonsense that screamed, "We don't care." It was a slap in the face to years of trust I'd built. I pictured her in her corner office, probably gloating over her lean new team, oblivious to the storm she'd just kicked up. I sat at my dining table, staring at my laptop, debating what to do. Part of me wanted to call every client, spill the whole story, and let the chips fall. But that wasn't me. Sabotaging Nexus, tempting as it was, felt cheap. Still, I couldn't just sit here and let Victoria steamroll everything I'd built. My phone buzzed again. A text from Riley, my old mentee at Nexus. Clients are freaking out. Victoria's team sent mass emails, and people are pissed. Lucas called the office demanding to speak to you. I smiled despite myself. Lucas, always the bulldog. But Riley's next text made my stomach drop. They're telling clients you left for personal reasons. Personal reasons? That was a lie, and a lazy one at that. I was still processing when another message came through, this one from an unfamiliar number. Chloe, it's Grace Coleman from Pinnacle Tech. Heard what happened at Nexus. Can we grab coffee this week? I love to talk. I froze. Grace was a VP at Pinnacle, Nexus's biggest rival. We'd met at industry conferences, always got along. Sharp woman, no nonsense. News traveled fast in Seattle's tech scene, and if Grace was reaching out, it wasn't just for gossip. My firing was already making waves, and I hadn't even done anything yet. I paced my apartment, the rain tapping against the windows. Coffee with Grace could mean an opportunity, a way out of this mess. But it also meant stepping into a new game, one where Nexus might try to slap me with that non-compete clause they made me sign years ago. I wasn't naive. I knew Victoria would play dirty if she felt threatened. Still, the thought of her smug face, her careless emails to my clients, lit a fire in me. She thought she could erase me, but she didn't know the half of what I'd built. I texted Grace back, "Coffee sounds great. Tomorrow at 10. Her reply was instant. Perfect. The Beanery on Pike. See you then. Then I responded to Lucas, keeping it vague but warm. Appreciate you checking in. I'm okay, just navigating some changes. Let's catch up soon. I didn't want to stir the pot, not yet. But as I set my phone down, I felt a shift, like the ground steadying under my feet. My clients weren't just accounts. They were friends, allies, people who'd chosen me long before Nexus was on their radar. Victoria could reassign them to her shiny new reps, but she couldn't break those bonds. I leaned back, watching the rain streak across the sound. Whatever came next, I wasn't going down without a fight. The Beanery on Pike smelled like roasted coffee and second chances. I arrived early, my nerves buzzing as I claimed a corner table by the window. Grace Coleman walked in right at 10, her no-nonsense vibe cutting through the morning crowd. She was in her late 40s, with a sharp bob and a smile that said she'd seen it all. "Chloe," she said, sliding into the seat across from me, "Nexus must be out of their minds." I laughed, a real one, for the first time since Victoria's office. That's one way to put it. We ordered black coffee for me, latte for her, and got to the point. "I'm not here to waste your time," Grace said, stirring her drink. "Pinnacle wants you. Director of Client Partnerships, reporting to me. 25% salary bump. Full autonomy to build your team the way you want." She slid a folder across the table, the offer letter crisp and official. The numbers were better than I dared hope, and the role? It was everything I'd been doing at Nexus, but with the freedom to do it right. My pulse quickened, but I kept my cool. What about my non-compete? I asked, tapping the folder. Grace waved a hand. Ohio law's shaky on those, and Washington's even worse for employers. We've run it by legal. It's unenforceable, especially since they fired you without cause. You're clear. I nodded, but my mind was racing. This was a lifeline, a chance to start over. But it also meant stepping into Pinnacle's world, Nexus's biggest rival. If word got out, Victoria would lose it. I could already picture her spinning some story about me betraying the company. Still, the thought of building something new, something mine, made my chest feel lighter than it had in days. As Grace and I wrapped up, my phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. Asterisk just paused our contract with Nexus. Their new rep's a clown. Kept pushing up sells like I'm some rando. You good? Asterisk I stared at the screen, a mix of guilt and pride washing over me. Lucas wasn't just a client. He was a friend who'd trusted me for years. Now he was pulling back because of Victoria's fumble. I texted back, asterisk I'm okay. Thanks for checking in. Let's talk soon. Asterisk I didn't say more, didn't need to. Lucas was already drawing his own conclusions. By afternoon, the fallout was spreading. Hannah emailed me furious. Asterisk Nexus is stalling on my data export request. Said it's under review. This is BS, Chloe. What's their deal? Asterisk then Mason called, his voice tight. They're dodging my team's calls about transitioning our account. I told them I'm out if you're not involved. I listened, my jaw clenched. Victoria wasn't just reassigning my clients. She was making it hard for them to leave. Riley, my old mentee, confirmed it with a late-night text. Asterisk heard Victoria tell the team to delay client transitions with tech issues. She's playing dirty, asterisk. That sealed it. I called Grace the next morning and signed a consulting agreement with Pinnacle, a 60-day setup to ease me in without tripping over Nexus's non-compete. It was a smart move, low risk, high reward. But the real game-changer came when I met Jacob, an old friend and lawyer, for drinks that evening. He leaned across the bar, his beer half empty, and grinned. Chloe, you've got more leverage than you think. Those clients, they're loyal to you, not Nexus. Victoria's screwing herself by burning those bridges. He promised to look over my old contract, just in case, and his confidence was contagious. I got home late, the Seattle skyline twinkling through my window. For the first time since the firing, I didn't feel like I was drowning. Nexus had undervalued me, seen me as a line item they could cut. But they didn't get it. My clients weren't just revenue streams. They were relationships, built on years of late-night calls, shared wins, and real trust. Victoria could try to lock them in with her petty tactics, but she was fighting a losing battle. I opened my laptop and started drafting an email to Lucas, Hannah, and Mason, keeping it vague but firm. I'm moving on to new opportunities, but I'm here if you need to talk. I hit send, my heart pounding. I wasn't orchestrating a rebellion. Not exactly. But I wasn't going to let Victoria bury me either. As I closed my laptop, my phone lit up with a reply from Hannah. Asterisk good for you, Chloe. Let's meet up. We've got some things to discuss. Asterisk I smiled, the spark of defiance flaring brighter. The game was on. I woke up the next morning with a clarity I hadn't felt since before Victoria's smug voice echoed in her office. The Puget Sound sparkled outside my window, and for once, it didn't feel like it was mocking me. My clients, Lucas, Hannah, Mason, weren't just upset. They were ready to fight back. And I was done sitting on the sidelines. Victoria thought she could lock them in with tech glitches and contract dodges, but she'd underestimated me. I wasn't going to sabotage Nexus, but I was damn sure going to help my friends protect themselves. I spent the morning at my dining table, laptop open, coffee going cold. I drafted a client rights guide, a simple document laying out Nexus's tactics, delayed data exports, vague system maintenance excuses, and paired them with the exact contract clauses that guaranteed client access. It was careful, precise, nothing that violated my non-disclosure agreement. Just facts, clear as day, drawn from years of navigating Nexus's fine print. I emailed it to Lucas, Hannah, and Mason with a short note. Asterisk thought this might help clarify your options. Let me know if you have questions. Asterisk my heart pounded as I hit send. This wasn't revenge. It was empowerment, but it still felt like stepping onto a tightrope. By noon, Lucas called, his voice buzzing with energy. "Chloe, this guide's gold. I'm sending it to my legal team. Nexus won't know what hit him." Hannah texted, "You're a lifesaver. We're demanding our data by end of day, citing section 14.2, thanks to you." Mason was quieter, just a quick appreciate this. "We're moving forward." I leaned back, a small smile creeping in. They weren't just my clients anymore. They were a united front, and I'd given them the tools to push back. I needed to take it further. That afternoon, I booked a private room at the Rusty Anchor, a cozy bar in Capitol Hill, and invited Lucas, Hannah, Mason, and a few other clients I'd worked with over the years. I pitched it as an industry mixer, casual, no pressure, just a chance to connect. I showed up early, nerves jangling, and greeted them as they arrived. Lucas with his easy grin, Hannah with her sharp-eyed focus, Mason looking like he'd already drafted a battle plan. I made quick introductions saying, "You all have more in common than you think. Swap stories, see what comes up." Then I stepped back, excusing myself with a vague, "Gotta run," conflict of interest and all. They nodded, but their eyes said they knew exactly what I was doing. By the next day, Lucas texted me, "That mixer was a game changer. We're sharing notes on Nexus's BS. Hannah's lawyers drafting a joint demand letter." I stared at the message, my pulse racing. They were forming a coalition, pooling their knowledge, realizing they weren't alone. I hadn't told them to do it, just lit the spark. Then Victoria called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Chloe," she said, her voice tight, like she was forcing out each word. "What are you playing at?" "My team's getting bombarded with client complaints, all citing contract clauses. This has your name all over it." I kept my tone calm, almost bored. "I haven't done anything professional, Victoria. My friends are just exercising their rights. Maybe you should check your own contracts." Silence. Then a sharp, "You're interfering with our business." I laughed, soft but cold. "You fired me, remember? Any talks I have with friends are personal. Good luck." I hung up, my hands shaking but my resolve ironclad. That evening, an email from Nora, Nexus's CEO, landed in my inbox. "Chloe, I'd like to discuss your return. Same role, 15% raise, direct line to me. Can we meet?" I read it twice, my jaw tight. Now they wanted me back after throwing me out like yesterday's trash? I replied politely, "Appreciate the offer, Nora, but I've moved on. Best wishes." Pinnacle was my future, and I wasn't looking back. Then Riley texted, her message a bombshell. "Chloe, you need to see this." Attached was a forwarded internal Nexus email, meant for Victoria's eyes only. Client retention plan. Leverage technical dependencies to delay transitions for Harper accounts. Legal estimates 2 to 3 months before pushback. My blood ran cold. It wasn't just Victoria. It was a coordinated effort to screw over my clients. I forwarded it to Grace at Pinnacle, my fingers trembling. This wasn't just dirty. It was illegal, and Victoria had no idea the fire she'd just walked into. I sat on my couch, the leaked Nexus email burning a hole in my laptop screen. Victoria's plan, deliberately stalling my clients with fake tech issues, twisting contracts to trap them, wasn't just unethical. It was a legal landmine. My hands shook as I forwarded it to Grace at Pinnacle, adding a single line. "This is what we're up against." Grace called within 10 minutes, her voice steady but laced with steel. "Chloe, this is tortious interference, maybe worse. Our legal team's on it. Get me everything you have." I spent the next hour compiling screenshots, emails, and texts from Lucas, Hannah, and Mason, all documenting Nexus's delays and excuses. It was a paper trail of desperation, and Victoria was at the center. By morning, Pinnacle's lawyers had drafted cease and desist letters, citing specific contract violations and Washington's data protection laws. They didn't send them right away. Grace wanted to wait, let the pressure build. My clients, armed with the guide I'd sent, were already turning up the heat. Lucas's legal team demanded immediate data access, quoting the clauses I'd highlighted. Hannah's firm sent a formal complaint to Nexus's board, accusing them of bad faith. Mason, usually the quiet one, escalated things by pausing payments, citing breach of trust. I didn't orchestrate it, but I'd given them the tools, and they were wielding them like pros. Then the bomb dropped. A Seattle tech blog, ByteBuzz, published a story. Nexus Solutions accused of locking clients in with shady tactics. The article didn't name me, crediting an anonymous source. I had a hunch Riley was behind it, but it laid out everything. Delayed exports, vague excuses, and a coordinated effort to block client transitions. It quoted an unnamed executive, probably Lucas, saying, "Nexus forgot that trust is their currency." They burned it. The story went viral in the local tech scene, shared across LinkedIn and X. Nexus's stock took a 6% hit by noon. I was grabbing coffee when Riley texted, "Victoria's out." Nora just sent a company-wide email. Attached was a screenshot. Effective immediately. Victoria Langston is no longer with Nexus Solutions. We are committed to restoring client trust. My heart thudded. Victoria was gone, not even 2 months into her role. Part of me expected to feel triumph, but all I felt was a quiet relief. She dug her own grave, and I hadn't had to lift a shovel. Nora didn't waste time. That afternoon, Nexus announced a client-first transition program, offering full data portability, no early termination fees, and streamlined processes. It was exactly what my clients had demanded, dressed up as a PR stunt. Lucas forwarded me the announcement with a single emoji, smirking face. Hannah called, laughing. "They're scrambling, Chloe. Your guide turned us into a damn army." I smiled, but my mind was already elsewhere. This wasn't about gloating. It was about making sure my clients, my friends, were free. I met Grace for lunch at a waterfront bistro, the air crisp with fall. She slid a tablet across the table, showing Pinnacle's latest client signups. 3 of your old Nexus accounts just reached out, she said, her eyes gleaming. They want to work with you, no one else. I nodded, unsurprised. Trust doesn't vanish just because someone changes companies. Legal's ready to move if Nexus tries anything else, Grace added. That email Riley leaked? It's a goldmine. We could bury them. I shook my head. Let's focus on building, not burning. My clients just want out. That night, I stood on my balcony, the Seattle skyline glowing against the dark. I thought about Victoria, probably packing her office, her perfect blazer folded in a box. I didn't hate her, not really. She'd been arrogant, sure, but losing her job so fast was a lesson sharper than any I could have taught. I remembered my own walk out of Nexus, the sting of dead weight still fresh. I'd been where she was now, but the difference was I'd built something real, relationships that held strong when everything else crumbled. My phone buzzed. A text from Levi, a former Nexus colleague who just joined Pinnacle's sales team at my recommendation. Heard about Victoria. You okay? I typed back. Better than ever. Drinks this week? His reply was instant. Hell yeah. You're a legend. I laughed, setting my phone down. The fight wasn't over, but the tide had turned. Nexus was learning the hard way what I'd always known. You don't build a business on spreadsheets. You build it on trust. And trust? That was something I had in spades. 6 months later, I stood in Pinnacle Tech's sleek conference room, presenting to the board. My slides were straightforward. Department growth, client retention, revenue projections. The numbers spoke for themselves. 10 of my former Nexus clients had signed with Pinnacle, bringing millions in annual contracts. Our retention rate was near perfect, a testament to the relationship-first model I'd built. As I wrapped up, the board chair, a grizzled exec named Margaret, leaned forward. Chloe, this is remarkable. What's your secret? I smiled, keeping it simple. No secret. We treat clients like people, not transactions. She nodded, and I saw respect in her eyes. The board didn't just applaud, they acted. That afternoon, they offered me VP of Client Strategy, effective immediately. Grace handed me the contract with a grin. You earned this, Chloe. The board's talking about a corner office by next year. I signed, my hands steady, but inside, I was soaring. This wasn't just a title. It was proof that what I'd built, what I'd always believed in, worked. I texted Riley, now my assistant at Pinnacle, Asterisk VP news is official. You free for celebratory coffee? Asterisk her reply was a string of confetti emojis and a hell yes. Life at Pinnacle felt like a fresh start. My team was small but fierce. Levi, my old Nexus colleague, had joined, along with 2 other Nexus reps who jumped ship after Victoria's exit. We were designing a client division that prioritized trust over quotas, and the results were undeniable. Lucas, Hannah, and Mason weren't just clients. They were partners, their companies thriving with Pinnacle software. At a client dinner last month, Lucas raised a glass, his eyes twinkling, to Chloe, who turned a corporate screw-up into a masterclass in loyalty. Hannah and Mason clinked glasses, and I laughed, warmth spreading through me. To trust that endures, I said, and we drank. The Nexus saga didn't end with Victoria's firing. 2 months ago, Pinnacle acquired Nexus, a move driven by their tech stack, not their client management. I'd pushed for one condition. Every Nexus employee got fair consideration for roles in the merged company. No one would face the gut punch I'd felt. Last week, I visited the old Nexus office in Belltown, now half empty. Its startup charm faded. I spoke to the remaining staff, their faces tense until I said, "I'm not here to clean house. Your jobs are safe if you want them. Bring your best, and we'll build something real." Relief washed over them, and I saw nods of understanding. They knew I meant it. As I walked through the sales floor, I paused at my old desk, now cleared out. The view of Seattle's skyline was the same, but I was different, stronger, sure. My phone buzzed with a text from Riley, asterisk overheard at a conference. Victoria's still jobless. Word is she's toxic in the industry now. Asterisk I didn't reply. Victoria's fall wasn't my victory. It was just a consequence. She'd gambled on control and lost to trust. That evening, I stood in my apartment, the Puget Sound shimmering under a twilight sky. I thought about the last 9 years, the late nights, the deals, the relationships that had carried me through Nexus's betrayal. I'd walked out of that office with nothing but a box and a spark of defiance, and now I was here, a VP shaping a company that valued what I'd always known mattered most. My phone lit up again, this time Lucas. Asterisk just saw the acquisition news. Poetic, Chloe. You built something better. Asterisk I smiled, typing back. Asterisk not about better. About what less? Asterisk. I set my phone down and stepped onto my balcony. The city alive with possibility. The awards I'd left at Nexus, the plaques and titles, meant nothing now. The real value was in the connections I'd forged. Lucas's loyalty, Hannah's fire, Mason's quiet trust, Riley's courage. They'd stood with me, and I with them. That was my legacy. Unbreakable, unshakable. As the skyline glowed, I raised my glass to the sound, to the future, to everything we'd built together. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning.